Well, hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle, and this is a Trifecta pre-election coverage special report. There's a GOP debate coming up shortly, and to help us handicap the horses in this race are my two Trifecta odds makers and kings makers, Steve Green and Scott Ott. They're with us today, and here's how we're going to handle it, boys. We got a lot of ground to cover. There are 7 candidates scheduled to be on that podium on that night. I'm just going to toss out the names, and you guys give me a brief pros and cons. If we get through it fast enough, we may have time for a brief what-if lightning round. Okay, ready? Here we go. Steve, we'll start with you. Mitt Romney, boring big state rhino or sound management central casting Mr. President?
Yes. Like if we had the zombie party and it nominated an undead candidate running on a platform of brains, I would still vote for him before I'd vote for Obama. Mitt's not quite that bad, but he can be kind of close. Here's the thing, though. Mitt would sign an Obamacare repeal. He would sign a balanced budget plan. He would sign a lot of great stuff. If we get Tea Party people into Congress, we could put Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's into the Oval Office, just so long as someone could operate the auto sign machine.
Yeah, Tea Party said they'd back anybody who's not Barack Obama. Scott, moving on. Michelle Bachmann, wacky, incoherent Tea Party witch, or cruelly maligned, brilliant, dual PhD Tea Party darling?
Well, actually, I'm probably one of the few people in the media who's seen her, because the rest of the reporters act like they never have. But I saw her speak at the Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. She lit that room up. She knew her stuff. She speaks better than any of the candidates that I've seen, and she is sharp as a tack. She can set the Republican Party on fire in a good way.
Yeah. 2 postgraduate degrees, PhD equivalent degrees. Steve, back to you. Newt Gingrich, seasoned conservative icon or pandering, anything to get elected waffler?
You know, we usually hear that Newt is brilliant but undisciplined, but listen, after he threw Paul Ryan under the bus a few weeks ago, you can't even make the case that he's brilliant. Newt isn't just a revolting human being. He thinks he's playing 3-dimensional chess when really he's just chewing on the pieces like a baby. He's not going to be the nominee.
Yeah, but we'll go knock on doors for him, won't we, if it's him against Barack Obama. Scott, back to you. Tim Pawlenty, dry as toast Midwestern snooze fest, or honest, competent, humble problem solver?
You know, I'm willing to take all of that now. I would love to have President Snooze Fest. There would be nothing better than a guy who spent about half of his time sleeping at his desk and the rest of it vetoing things that were sent over to him by Congress. That would be terrific. I've been more and more impressed with Pawlenty's willingness to go where it's hard to say things and say them, such as going to Iowa and saying, I'm against ethanol subsidies. I'm looking for good things out of him.
I got a chance to introduce him, actually, at an event not too long ago, and I thought he was a superb guy, really good, smart guy. All right, Steve, back to you. Rick Santorum, foot in the mouth racist blowhard, or border security savior?
You know what? From now on, I'm just going to give all my answers with what Scott said. Now, Santorum's claim to fame, and you know what? He says this all the time. It's the heart of his campaign. I beat incumbent Democrats. Well, maybe, but, you know, he was such a strange senator that he lost his last race by 18 points. And really, he's a big government Republican, George W. Bush Jr., and I think Obama would love to run against Bush again.
Yeah, I'll bet. Okay, Scotty, Ron Paul.
Worst presidential announce I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think
Ron
you mentioned
Paul,
that.
I like Steve's.
Look, hang on, I got to finish the little. I got to finish the little
chicken thing.
You got to finish the little thing. It's a little bon mot with a little bow on the top. Ron Paul, crazy 9/11 truther, loon, or lifelong champion of constitutionalism and founding principles?
Well, he certainly is. If somebody once approached me outside of a polling place and tried to get me to vote for the Ron Paul delegates to the Republican convention, the problem was they weren't being upfront about it. They didn't tell me they were the Ron Paul delegates. And I said, you know what, I love Ron Paul. I think he's got a lot of good things to say about the economy. I'm just afraid that he's going to get us all killed.
Yeah.
Little thing.
Okay, Steve, back to you. Herman Cain, long shot revivalist barn burner, or savvy, seasoned business executive?
He's both, and that's why I really like some Herman Cain. Problem is, economically, he really is a Keynesian through and through, and, you know, this is a terrible thing to have to say, but you just know that if he wins the nomination, the Democrats would play the race card. Seriously. They'd say, you're running a fake black man because we have a real black man. Trust me, it would get that ugly right at the beginning.
I wish they'd get that ugly. There's nothing I'd rather have than have Barack Obama, who grew up in Indonesia and surfing in Hawaii, trying to tell the country how he's more of an authentic black guy than a guy who grew up in Georgia and made his own way on his own as a businessman. I'd love to have that discussion. Okay, boys, the home stretch now. There are three of, we'll call them the coy toys, still sitting on the sidelines. They're kind of having their names bandied about, but they haven't actually announced, so they won't be at the debate. So, Scott, back to you. Paul Ryan, mean-spirited children and grandma murderer, or articulate visionary with the only plan to really be able to save the country?
I think he's more of an engineer than a visionary. I think he's a very practical person who just looks at the situation that we're in and says, okay, what is it going to take to fix this mess? Yeah, I don't think he has any sort of grand vision for the United States other than fiscal sanity, and I hope he stays right where he is and keeps doing what he's doing, and then maybe in 2016 we'll talk again.
I want a guy with a lack of vision about what the government should be doing. Steve, this is your final round. Rick Perry, George W. Bush's third term, or tough, charismatic job creator?
What Scott said. Now, our friend Tony Katz told me, close your eyes when Rick Perry speaks and you'll hear George W. Bush. So I tried it. Tony's right. That said, Perry has a great governing record to run on. Now I'm a registered independent, so I can't vote in the primary here in Colorado. But if Perry wants to jump in, I think a lot of people would find him a lot like Mitt Romney. Smooth, almost too smooth, but a lot more palatable than Mitt. He might just jump in.
Yeah, he's not quite as prone to stumbles as George Bush was either. So I think Perry's got a tremendous record in this economy. That could be the final answer. Steve Green, of course, will be drunk blogging the debate so that you don't have to. Scotty, we're back to you for the missing jewel in the broken crown. You did a great piece on Sarah Palin on a Trifecta this week. So here's your question. Sarah Palin, Harley-riding redneck rube idiot, or Harley-riding game-changing force of nature?
Well, I think she is a game-changing force of nature, as you said in that other episode of Trifecta this week. And I would, strangely enough, I would love to see her get into the race because I think she would make everybody's game come up a bunch. Everybody would have to perform at a much higher level. Now, I know the media would be playing their constant game of trying to make her look stupid, but she's talking about the stuff that we really care about, not just we on PJTV, but those who are watching us and those across the country. Get her in there, and let's get that debate going.
Yeah, you bet. Well, folks, you can order all of your Scott Ott action figure sets at scottott.org. And that's the pregame program. You can tune into PJTV for all of your debate and ongoing election coverage. For the entire Trifecta team, I'm Bill Whittle.